Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to Stamp Chat. I'm Heidi Rhodes. Joining me today is Charlene Blair, founder of the National Museum of African Americans on Stamps. A stamp collector for over 26 years and known as the Stamp Keeper, Charlene Blair has turned her hobby into a nonprofit organization to help bring greater awareness and education about the many African Americans that have been honored on U.S. stamps. She's an award-winning exhibitor and Illinois chapter chair of the Ebony Society of Philatelic Events and Reflections, we also know as ESPR. She's a member of the APS and the Association of African American Museums. Charlene began collecting in 1991 after reading an article in Jet magazine about the 14th Black Heritage stamp being issued. Charlene began her journey of obtaining stamps from a local stamp dealer and started attending stamp shows. Beginning with the Black Heritage series, the oldest commemorative series by the USPS, she expanded to other African Americans on stamps. Ms. Blair has presented on Stamp Chat on a number of occasions and is an advocate for philatelic outreach. In honor of Women's History Month, Blair will be presenting her popular program, Extraordinary African American Women on Stamps. Now, before we get started, Stamp Chat is a production of the American Philatelic Society. Since 1886, the APS has served collectors with the services and support that they need. With membership starting at just $25, you can join 135 years of fellowship and start taking advantage of member benefits now. Visit stamps.org/join now. And with that, let's get started. Thank you so much, Charlene, for joining us today.
Hi, Heidi. Thanks for the invitation. So I think everyone can see my screen. I am sharing now. Again, I'd like to thank the American Philatelic Society for the invitation to share this presentation with you. Heidi gave you a little background on me, how long I've been collecting and why I started collecting. But just my journey for starting the National Museum of African Americans on Stamps basically started, as a way for me to leave a legacy for my son and to include him in my collecting. And it has become a happy place for me, a place of therapy, like meditation and journaling. I applied for a grant actually in 2012, was denied, but decided, what I thought was going to be the Stamp Keeper Museum turned into Facebook posts sharing my collection that I call Cultural Collectibles. And as a result, I found the organization ESPR, met Ms. Hayes in 2013. As you know, she's the founder. And then I had the chance to visit the museum in DC when they opened up in 2016. And I got a chance to visit them there, as well as to visit them again when we went to the Dorothy Height stamp unveiling in February 2017. So I really came back home feeling like I wanted to merge those two entities, my stamp collecting and the museum. And once I saw that, that the National Museum of African American Music was started as well, and it took them 20 years to just have their opening. And so, of course, they say, do not despise small beginnings because you have to start somewhere. So I found a way to merge those two passions. And this presentation actually is dedicated in honor of two people. One first being Ms. Hayes, who's the founder of ESPR, who many of you know passed in 2019, that she was inspired by Jesse Owens, where he was at a stamp show signing autographs and, kind of challenged her. And after he passed, she decided to start ESPR as a way to bring attention to the accomplishments that African Americans were making. And so what you see here is a program from our 25th anniversary, the silver anniversary, where I just was somewhat in awe of her and asked her to sign my program. This was in Charlotte at this location. And then a couple times, here's a picture of Ms. Hayes and myself at the 25th anniversary. where she signed my program. And then again, I had a chance to meet her when Esper celebrated our 30th anniversary in Virginia. This is a picture of us inside the Capitol. While we were walking around in the Capitol, she actually kind of called me over to her and threw something in my bag. It was in tissue paper, said, look at it later. And when I got back to the hotel, I opened it up and there inside was this beautiful scarf. As you can see, it has people from the Black Heritage collection engraved in it, or embroidered in it, sewn in it. But it's one of my prized possessions. Here are a couple other people who had a chance to take a picture with her while we were at the Capitol: Yvonne Singley and Betty Lewis. And then the other person that this is in memory of is Bernice Fields. Now, Bernice Fields, as many of you may have read in that American Philatelist, she did an article on members of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated that are on stamps. Now, the Divine Nine is an organization of fraternities and sororities, African-American fraternities and sororities. There are 4 sororities, 5 fraternities. Delta Sigma Theta is one of those. Yvonne Singley, who, as you saw in the previous slide, took a picture with Miss Hayes, is a member of that organization. And when she saw this article, she decided to have the Springfield chapter do an event, a luncheon, a fundraiser, so that they can highlight just all African-American women on stamps. So this particular presentation was first done at their luncheon, and Yvonne organized it and invited Bernice to speak and me to have a display table, an exhibit table. So what you see, me in the middle, I have 2 tables there, and I have different pieces from my collection highlighting the women on the stamps. There are about 40 women on the US stamps, and I am only going to highlight probably about 10 or 15 of them today. And this is the program that they put together. And this was in Springfield, Illinois in 2019. So I just definitely want to give them a shout out, and Bernice Fields for being the first person to do this presentation. And these are some of the resources that I use to pull this together. Everything basically comes from my collection, unless you see the little logo here, that means it's a scan of something. And I like to thank Clarence and Felix for their feedback and allowing me to use them as guinea pigs sometime when I'm doing presentations. So as you all, most people know, after US people on stamps came around in 1847, of course, and then we, African Americans, first one was Booker T. Washington in 1940. And then that same year, a couple other people came out, of course, John Audubon and the 13th Amendment. But as I'm doing this and talking to people, I just want to put that in perspective of what was happening in 1940. You're looking at a time when Hattie McDaniel had just won her award from Gone with the Wind. And then also, as the movie that's out now, United States versus Billie Holiday, you have her singing and getting in trouble for singing a song, Strange Fruit. So a lot was happening in that 1939, 1940 time. As I said, Hattie McDaniel won the Oscar for Gone with the Wind, but could not sit on the front row to attend, to get her award at the ceremony. So a lot was going on. And even Booker T. Washington being the first selection, he's on the 10-cent stamp, but there was controversy and people were arguing, didn't want him on the 10-cent stamp. They wanted him on the 3-cent stamp, which is why they came up with the 13th Amendment stamp. As you can see, it's Lincoln with an African-American as a slave. So, after a while, someone got involved to be more persistent and to be consistent with having African Americans on stamps. So the first series was birthed, the Black Heritage series, started in 1978. It was also at this time we had our first woman, Harriet Tubman. And to be honest, even after she appeared in 78, there were 6 more men on stamps before another woman appeared, and that being Mary McLeod Bethune. So Harriet Tubman's first name, of course, was not Harriet Tubman. Was her real name was Araminta Ross, known, and people called her Minty, Moses of her people. As you all know, there's been a lot of discussion about her being on the $20 bill. That initiative was postponed, I understand, to 2028, but there are people who are fighting now, trying to get her on a denomination or some type of stamp. That book, Minty, as I said, this book was a design by Jerry Pinkney, illustrated by him. He also did the Harriet Tubman stamp book, Martin Luther King, Benjamin Banneker, and Scott Joplin. But he illustrated this book in '96. And I actually just got this book from the Michael's Craft Store during Black History Month. They had several books, children's books. So I got it to go along with this presentation. I thought it'd be good to add this in here. But I thought, gosh, this looks so familiar. That book looks so familiar. And so what I realized is when we were at the World Stamp Show and Jerry Pinkney was there signing cards for us, I think he was a guest for us when we brought him in, that book is here at the bottom of his postcard. So these are the stamps that he was involved with, and then he signed it May 2016 at the World Stamp Show. And again, this is one of the first day covers that we did in honor of special commemorative that has Miss Hesper Hayes on it. And these are some pieces from my collection just to show that not dragon cards, but maxi cards. I was on the video with Graham Beck actually, and I remember him saying something about maxi cards. And I actually put in the chat to ask him, did he know anything about dragon cards, which he wasn't as familiar with. He probably is now. So I went on a quest to try to find some of maxi cards and found these pertaining to women. And Sojourner Truth, this is the one she's named after the Mars Pathfinder Sojourner. I saw an interesting story about that where they asked a group of kids to come up with a name for the next Pathfinder, and the kids, a classroom of kids actually came up with this. And this is the scan. Next, and these, I'm going in the order of the that the stamps came out, of course, not necessarily by birth dates or days that they died, but the next person that I'm going to highlight is Ma Rainey, billed as the mother of blues, and her real name was Gertrude Pridgett because she was married to William Rainey, so she ended up getting the name Ma Rainey. As some of you know, that movie just came out, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, starring Viola Davis. It was the last movie that Chadwick Boseman was in. And we, from what I'm understanding, that Ma Rainey was a big influence on Bessie Smith and Louis Armstrong. If you watch the movie, you will see his character in the movie. Here's a picture of it. Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. That is a movie based off of course, plays by August Wilson. August Wilson is the stamp that just came out, the Black Heritage stamp that came out last month. He's at the bottom, and the little card you see to the left, this is my first time. I've been collecting almost 30 years, and it's the first time that I got a fresh pack and had a chance to get the card. The post lady was very nice about getting it. At the time, I guess neither one of us really thought about it. I would have had her really kind of be careful about how she opened it. And so it's got a little mark on the front where she kind of put the pin on it to open it. But I really appreciate her giving it to me. She had mentioned that the post office workers now keep those for themselves, but I guess at one time they used to be something that the post office would give as a first day of issue to those of us that are stamp collectors. Next, Ethel Waters, began her career in 1920 singing the blues, and his first African-American to star in her own television show and the first African-American woman to be nominated for a Primetime Emmy. And I have this first day cover was from the St. Louis Stamp Show in 2017. That year, Scott Joplin was their theme, and Tom Miner signed. He was the artist, first day cover artist there, and so he was signing the first day issues. And so I pulled this one out because it had Ethel Waters with Scott Joplin. And they actually had several there. One I have has Elvis on it, one with some other people on it too. Billie Holiday. I don't know if you all had a chance to watch that movie. It was very interesting. United States versus Billie Holiday just really gave a different perspective on her life. Like, as I said, what was going on during that time with African Americans, 1939, 1940. And I actually just ordered these two pieces, this first day cover and this maxi card, once I saw that the movie was coming out. So I added that to be able to put it with this presentation. Bessie Coleman, Bessie Smith, Madam C.J. Walker. And as I said, Madam C.J. Walker is known as an entrepreneur, and a lot of times people say she's the first African-American woman that was a millionaire in the U.S., but I'm here in the St. Louis, Missouri area, and we have a lady named Annie Malone. They have an Annie Malone parade, and she and Madam C.J. Walker, worked together. Some people say that she was mentored by C.J. Walker, and then if you've seen the story, they have them kind of in competition with each other. So there's some controversy on which one of them actually made it to being a millionaire, but we know they both made an impact. So Annie Malone is not on a stamp yet, but I'm sure at some point that may happen, hopefully. And then we have Bessie Smith, who I said before, Ma Rainey was influential on her life, and she also was in blues during the 1920s and 30s. Bessie Coleman, what can we say about Bessie Coleman? And this is a program from her first day event. And the bottom is a sheet or description that a friend of mine works at the post office, and well, she just retired. And so whenever they would put out new stamps, they would have these flyers up on different displays throughout their location. So when she found out that I was a collector, she actually started giving me those handouts, the flyers. So I have several, probably about 10 of those of different people. She's a person, when they had the Marvin Gaye stamp unveiling in Los Angeles, I brought her back a pin, and it was the same time as the St. Louis unveiling. So she got me a program from the St. Louis ceremony for Marvin Gaye. So we swapped. Bessie Coleman. So this is one of the commemorative pages for her. I really like the commemorative pages that the post office puts out. And this is actually a scan, as you can see my little logo. And then the gospel singers. And what we have here is my CD. I've never opened that CD. As you can see, it has a little, the wrapping still on it. And I have not found another one. Sometimes I'll buy two of things so that I can open one, or, and then have one on display, but I have not opened that one because I haven't found the CD anymore. So I listen to them on YouTube like everybody else. But I thought it was interesting. Everybody has their full name: Hallie Jackson, Roberta Martin, Clara Ward, and this Sister Rosetta. That's all they put on her. So her last name was Stark. Next group, of course, I'm highlighting Zora Neale Hurston. I actually have a really nice first day cover of her, but she was part of the whole Harlem Renaissance. So of course, if I do an exhibit, we just have the Voices of Harlem Renaissance stamps that just came out. So of course, I'll have to go back through and pull all the people that were affiliated with that time, people like James Baldwin and others. But in this particular case, we have Hurston, who was a prolific writer of short stories, plays, essays, and her most famous novel being Their Eyes Were Watching God. And we have Marian Anderson, which is the exhibit that a lot of you know me from, the one that I actually exhibited in St. Louis and at the APS show in Virginia, and won bronze ribbons at both of those shows. And of course, then Hattie McDaniel, who, as I mentioned earlier, got recognized for her role in Gone with the Wind, Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress, and first given to a Black entertainer. And like I said, this was around the same time that the first African-American appeared on the stamp in Booker T. Washington. Now, when I'm looking at Marian Anderson and Hattie McDaniel, the cover in the middle is the one that really inspired me to do the exhibit that I did. And I may build on it at some point, but to the left is a commemorative stamp ceremony dedication for her. And then the other one of my other favorite covers is this one with Hattie McDaniel. Now this one is by Kendall Bevel, and apparently at some point they used to have people make covers for the employees, and this is from the UPS Central Illinois Performance Cluster. Haven't found any other information on this one. And so when it comes to Hattie McDaniel, she is a member of Sigma Gamma Rho sorority, African-American sorority founded in 1922. Like I mentioned earlier about Divine Nine, how fraternities and sororities are in this particular group, African-American fraternities and sororities. And Sigma Gamma Rho sorority is another one. I just happen to be a member of this one as well. Our colors are blue and gold. And so my sorority actually has a initiative, breast cancer awareness initiative, named after Hattie McDaniel, since that's what she passed from. That initiative has since expanded beyond just breast cancer. It includes all cancers actually now. But for the last 3 years, when they have their lunch, it's a breakfast, basically. We call it breasts and baguettes and bras, or ways for women to come in, talk about their experiences with breast cancer, get measured, and for bras, specialty bras, and just an initiative to keep the conversation going and to share the new research that's going on. But as you can see here, I have an exhibit that I put on display at those events. And so not only with my sororities event, I've also done this display and added some more things too, sometimes switch it out at other breast cancer awareness events and highlight the African-American initiative. Here we're looking at the next four. Of course, the top two, this whole particular sheet is part of the NAACP's recognition when they had their 100th anniversary. So this particular stamp was put out. And I'm just getting really so into the whole Fannie Lou Hamer story, and it's just really fascinating to me, especially if you ever gone to listen to her YouTube video of her testimony and the things that she went through just to keep the movement going. In addition to, I mean, when you look at people like Miss Rosa Parks, she, went through a lot prior to just going to sit on the bus. She was really in the background before the sitting on the bus episode, was a fighter for women who had been sexually abused and was really an advocate for those women and trying to get help. That's what she, in my mind, is known for. And I connect her now more so with Fannie Lou Hamer because I know she was assaulted while she was in jail and things that she went through. As we know, she was an organizer, part of the whole civil rights movement, co-founder and vice of the Freedom Democratic Party. And Gwendolyn Brooks down in the bottom right corner. Now today I'm still finding stamps. She's part of the poets group of stamps, and I'm still finding stamps that may not have the individual's name per se, or specialty ceremonies or specialty series that I'm finding African Americans in somewhere, just like the Thanksgiving stamp. If you just said Thanksgiving, I might not find it. But once I found that Thanksgiving stamp, there was an African American up front in the marching band. So African American related stamps are what I'm starting to really build out my collection with more so now too, in addition to that. But Gwendolyn Brooks definitely is a person that has made an impact, on our society. And I just speaking out on Anna Julia Cooper, I just realized recently that on my passport, there's a quote in there from her as well as Martin Luther King. How cool is that? Catherine Dunham. Now, like I said, I'm here in the St. Louis area, and Catherine Dunham actually has a house in East St. Louis, Illinois. It's a center. And growing up as a child, we all went through the Catherine Dunham technique, wearing our little leotards and little different things and learning how to dance. But they have a home here that they are, trying to keep up, trying to maintain. She's well known in this area, and definitely was a nice contribution or addition to the whole stamp series. Of course, she's had one of the most successful dance careers in Black and European theater of the 20th century. Here we have, of course, as I mentioned earlier about Rosa Parks and all the contributions that she made even before she sat on and did not get up on the bus. Edna Lewis is a chef, teacher, and author. Ms. Lewis helped refine the American view of Southern cooking. We have Sarah Vaughn, who I actually just added some new pieces, souvenir pages and first day covers for Sarah Vaughn. I'm really trying to build that one out because I think I want to do something with her soon. And just looking at the Maya Angelou stamp, remember that stamp right there? I remember when this came out. This is the picture that was on the USA Philately. So I remember getting it in 2015 and thinking, oh, that's a pretty stamp. I really like the cover of that. So I was kind of shocked then when they, on the inside, they did that particular stamp. And then it's a little controversial because my understanding that that's not really even a quote from her, but was inspired by a quote from her. So that's kind of weird that they would put that on her stamp, but it's there now. And I have some greeting cards actually with a lot of quotes and information about her that I got from another organization. And these are some additional items in my collection. I'm sure a lot of you all are familiar with that name, Doris Gold. I think that was one of my first painted items, may have been. But I like these maxi cards, as you can see. This was at the Dorothy Height collection, one of my most favorite events, because like I said, we got a chance to go to the museum in DC, and it was just a nice experience. You see, because she is a member of Delta Sigma Theta too. A lot of Deltas were there, but I had to represent with my blue and gold and my sorority, Sigma Gamma Rho sorority. Lena Horne. I think Lena Horne, when hers came out, I remember the weather being really cold and snowy, and we didn't make it, and we didn't get to go to that one in New York. So, but I love this maxi card at the bottom. It's one of my favorites too. So if I'm doing a display, I definitely make sure that I have her on there. So the bottom two are the ones from Voices of Harlem Renaissance. Yeah, those two are out from last year, as well as the Gwen Eiffel. And I think that is the end, close to the end. Oh, I shouted myself out because we're seeing African-American women on stamps, and somebody gave me those Zazzle stamps for a birthday gift. And they say 34 cents, but actually they still work. I just put a little extra postage with them, and I've been sending those on some birthday cards that I put out. And I also mentioned the American Philatelic Show in 2017. And this picture at the bottom, we Clarence put it on the Esper website. And as you can see, it has a picture of myself, with Mark Thompson, Cheryl Gans, and Dawn Hammond, where we all won an award at that time. And I always tell people that this picture almost didn't happen. As I was at a meeting that Esper was having. And when I ran around there to get my award, the gentleman asked me, did you still want a picture? And I said, of course, because, I kind of had a feeling that I was breaking some kind of record or making some kind of contribution. I didn't know of any other African-American women that had displayed or exhibited there, more or less, had won any kind of ribbon. So I'm asking people if they know someone to please let me know that I like to, meet the person. And that is it. So as I said, I've merged my passion for stamp collecting as well as museums and using stamps, one, to teach history, two, to expose you to the possibility of being in the museum field. That's another area where African Americans are needed. I think we said about 4% of African Americans are in the museum field. I actually worked for a museum for 5.5 years here in this area with the Missouri Historical Society, the Missouri History Museum. I used to manage their executive offices for them. By trade, I'm an administrative professional, executive assistant for over 30 years. So managing their museum also gave me a love for collecting and seeing the importance of how packaged properly and shared with others can be a big impact. So that's how I look at us with stamps. You know, I'm at a point where I don't want to just keep them in a binder and up on a shelf. I need to find a way to get them out there. And now, because of COVID, of course, we are a traveling and virtual museum, but because of COVID, we have not been able to go out to set up the pop-up exhibits, I call them. So we've pivoted like everybody else and are doing presentations like this. So it's great that Stamp Chats kind of started, got the ball rolling for a lot of that with APS. So just scanning pieces from my personal collection and then developing more PowerPoints, turning them into videos may be something, I'm sure it is, something that we're going to continue even when we're able to get back out. So I mentioned to Holly that, to Heidi, that we had not been out for over a year, but we actually have one lined up for this month that we'll probably just have one table, not a big display, because of course everybody will be in masks and all of that. But that's my way of being able to contribute and to keep the ball rolling for the hobby. I think this is the last slide. Let me go. Yes. So I am going to stop sharing, Heidi. Is that okay?
Absolutely. Okay. Unless you want to keep that, either your logo
up. Sure,
up.
I will.
I love the Zazzle stamp. That's if anybody should have that stamp, it's you, Charlene. Fantastic. Thank you so much for the presentation, Charlene. We do have some questions and friends that are joining us live. Thank you for using the Q&A box. It's that time. And for our friends that are watching later at a later date on YouTube, go ahead and use that comment box. We regularly monitor it. And I know Charlene Blair's also on the YouTube channel often and has her own YouTube channel for NMAAS. NEMAS. So you can definitely check out her email after you check out her recorded on APS YouTube channel. That said, here we go. Wonderful presentation. Thank you. Remind me again how many African-American women are on U.S. stamps. You said it at the beginning, and
about 40. And now, 40. Yeah, and I see someone in the chat, actually, he didn't put in the question and answer, but it's in the chat asking about, thank you, asking about who have not yet been honored on stamps, but will be or should be. And as we know, now that they've changed the number of years that it takes for a person to appear on the stamp, I'm expecting to see a lot more. Now, I've even submitted a letter for Jacob Lawrence. I love his artwork and I would like to see him at some point. I see that this year they did put out some stamps belonging to an artist, and I'm understanding that and really just came to terms and understanding that Jacob Lawrence artwork was actually on to form a More Perfect Union stamps. But I would love to see him in his own series, maybe about 4 or 5 items from his collection of artwork. I know, I guess you have to go through a lot of clearance and all of that for that to happen. But he's one person that I have my eye on that I would like to see. Of course, we know probably now that like Diane Carroll or Cicely Tyson, 3 years from now, one of them may appear on a stamp.
Charlene, do you want to, for any of our attendees, live or recorded, Can you go briefly provide how one, advocates for a stamp?
You mean when we went for how I did it?
Yes.
I wrote that committee, that advisory committee that I guess makes the decisions on stamps. And that committee is filled with like 12 people that have been assigned that have a variety of backgrounds and interests. But it is a process. I mean, like the Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, which is an African-American sorority, they are the only ones so far, I think, that are not on a stamp of the Black fraternities and sororities. And they have been advocating for Ethel Hedge Lyman, I think is her name, for years. They have written letters, they have sent in signatures. They've done a lot trying to get her. So I'm not sure what it will actually take, for her to finally get on the stamp. But it seems like a lot of times things happen during anniversaries, like the 50th birth of or death of something versus a special event. But we see like with Gwen Eiffel, she came out and sooner than we thought. And I know of, it was one other lady that I know that has a real long history of even being a correspondent in the White House, and a person that I thought may appear on the stamp way before Gwen, but sometimes just the timing of it. And I guess it's a sign of the times where things may just be better to put that person out sooner than later.
But the point is that Americans can lobby for their own. You can write a letter. So that's cool. Yeah. Okay, continuing on. Very nice presentation. How long have you been doing presentations and exhibits?
Oh, so as you know, we have been, I've been collecting 30-some years. I started NEMAS in 2017 as a virtual and traveling museum pop-up. So I guess we'll say about 4 years that we've been doing the exhibits. And as I was mentioning to Heidi earlier, we just got our logo officially set with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. So that was over a year process for that to happen. But we made it. So it was in the official Gazette for the whole month of February. So now it kind of lays low for about 3 months, and then we'll be good to go. But presentations outside of stamps, I've done, several years working for the company, my main company that I work for, Wells Fargo. But with this, I've just recently started, since we started the pivot of having to do online presentations. Now I have virtual exhibits, like for the Black conferences of museums. I had an exhibit there, virtual booth. And I like this setup. All the vendors had their own little space, and people were able to log on, come in to meet and greet with you. So I had a YouTube video up, presentation on African Americans on stamps. And then they were able to actually ping me to possibly have a conversation. So I had a couple of people that we had some back and forth conversations with.
Yeah, you've really, you've pivoted very well, Charlene. Nicely done. Several African-American women have Barbie dolls in the Inspiring Women series. Do you have any?
Well, I'm on the waiting list. I want to get the Maya Angelou, is on a dial now. That one's in big demand and ran out fast. So did Rosa Parks. So those are two that are there. I am a Black Heritage Barbie doll collector, actually, and have several Barbies. And I would say, but I have the Venus and Serena dolls, but they're not on stamps yet. But those are two I have, but I actually don't have dolls of the stamp people. So the two I'm trying to get, or probably will get, will be Maya Angelou and Rosa Parks. And then Catherine, but she's not on stamp, from Nassau, Catherine James.
Just to back up, Clarence McKnight, who was on Stamp Chat last week and has been a presenter, that he's been working the Divine Nine fraternities and sororities for the Esper website, and he is almost finished. So you guys can go ahead and check out esperstamps.org. Who are some African-American women who have not been honored on stamps yet, but will be or should be?
Like I said, I'm expecting right now. I have Cicely Tyson's book, Just as I Am, and right now she's at the top of mind because that's one I definitely want to see in the future. Of course, like I said, Diane Carroll. Can't think right off. For some reason, those two are really at the top of mind that I would really like to see sooner than later. Yeah.
And Mary Love, who was a virtual stamp show presenter, she wanted to say, great job. Yes, so terrific. Mary, and thank you, Mary, for joining us today.
And definitely an inspiration to me, Mary Love, because she, I think it was at the 25th anniversary when I saw her display of items, her magnets that she had on display and frames, picture frames. And I thought, man, not only can, this is a great business stamp, but I could see this being a way to just exhibit. So that was also another inspiration to me about coming back and starting the museum. Because a lot of people say, are you selling this? I'm like, no, I have nothing for sale. Everything that I do basically is for display, but I actually have started a separate arm that I'm calling Cultural Charisma of greeting cards that highlight African Americans on stamps. And so that's just another love of mine that I just recently started. So that coming soon, and contributions or sales from that will contribute to NEMAS.
Incredible. That is really, really cool. I love the greeting cards, and stamps are so beautiful. And
have you we have a couple other APS members that do cards too, using the stamps.
That's so beautiful. We have another question. Have you connected your collection of African-American stamps with coins honoring African-American heritage?
You know what? I wasn't into coins before. I know Howard Ingram is, he's on here, but I got the Tuskegee Airman coins that just came out. I actually got mine's in the mail this yesterday. I don't know if Clarence is on here or not, but I got mine's, Clarence. The quarters. So I got those, the Tuskegee Airmen. So like I said before, and I looked at that whole America the Beautiful series. And the only other one, I know there was a Frederick Douglass quarter, which of course is not available now. So you probably have to go, another market to get that. But that's the one stamp, that's the one coin that just came out, the Mint just put out on this year. It was the last coin in that series. It was 56 coins. And the Tuskegee Airman was the last one. Number 56. And so we jumped online. They went on sale on February 19th and they sold out really fast. So the 3 coins is gone, but I think you can, and I'm on the waiting list for the roll of quarters, but it went really fast. And I can imagine because it was part of a series, part of the America the Beautiful series. It was 56 coins in the series. That was the last one. And it opened up and they put it on sale February 19th. So not only we as collectors are competing with people who are coin collectors who want that last coin for that collection. It was crazy. I mean, it went fast. And I just happened to be following the story, and tagging people saying, hey, they're going on sale.
I'm glad that Mary Love brought that up in the Q&A.
Yeah.
Our friends over in the numismatic world. That's very cool.
Yeah.
What are some of the facts that you've learned through your collection, about these women? Who inspires you? What did you learn? What is something that, picks you up when you're feeling down, or, how have these women inspired you, and who has?
Well, I'm really amazed at how many women have a different name. I think I have my sheet here. Just a second. Mm-hmm. This might be a little quiz you could put in the chat if you know the real answer, because this is just 5 that I'm just interested in. That Ma Rainey, I think I said that, in my presentation that her real name was Gertrude Pritchett of Billie Holiday. If any of you just recently saw that movie, her real name was Eleanor Fagan. Harriet Tubman, I mentioned in the presentation, Araminta Ross, Sojourner Truth. Her real name, Isabella Bonfrey. Of course, we know her from the Ain't I a Woman speech. That's a speech that I've done several times at my own church and for Black History Month. And Rosetta, Sister Rosetta, which I said Tharpe because she was married to a Tharpe, but Rosita Atkins was her name. So as I'm doing more research, of course, you can have a lot of little facts in your head. So I tell people I can't remember them all, and I'm no problem doing the research and going and get a book and reading you the answer. But that's what I'm amazed at, how many people just names, you know, their real names, they didn't go by their real names per se.
When did you figure, I mean, Harriet Tubman is, you know, a figure that I think everybody in at like second grade, you know, starts to, when did you find out her name?
Just doing the research. Yeah, just doing the research, actually. I mean, it's in Google. It's just everybody wants to say, you know, Harriet Tubman. But it's just facts that I'm finding out about her, even just recently, where, you know, we got all the big deal on statues and statues coming down now. That middle 13th Amendment stamp that I shared that came out in 1940, that is a replica of a statue that's in DC, but the replica was also in Boston, Massachusetts. And actually last year, Boston voted to take that statue down. And so I thought it was really interesting that even all the statues can go down, but they'll always be on the stamps. So when we say stamps teach and every stamp has a story, definitely, you know, we may be the ones who have to tell that story, that this was on, you know, an actual statue that was in the America at one time, but, you know, was taken down for those of us, you know, who have the stamps and share them.
Well, and that's what you are all about. You are the stamp keeper. And so this is very true. You represent Stamps Teach 100%. And I'm really excited for you and proud of you for all of your, you know, how you've been able to switch from going to the outreach into the virtual world, and this evolution. Your passion hasn't changed. What, you know, it's only grown. And so I would like to remind all of our friends that Charlene and I were talking before, and if there's a civic organization that you're aware of that's looking for a great presentation, you can get in touch with Charlene Blair, and she'll be happy to present. I know where we are at Penn State. You know, I'm excited to maybe hook her up with some fraternities and sororities. So it was just a fabulous presentation. I really appreciate it. And friends, without any more questions, we are going to conclude this episode of Stamp Chat. Please join me in thanking Ms. Blair in the chat box. We really appreciate it. Stamp Chat is a production of the American Philatelic Society. Through your generous support of the Mighty Buck program, we've been able to produce over 100 hours of Stamp Chats from enthusiasts and experts from around the hobby. By donating just $12 a year to our Mighty Buck campaign, you're contributing to the growth and well-being of the APS and, of course, Stamps Teach. To become a member of the Mighty Buck Club, visit stamps.org/Mighty Buck. Thank you for joining us on Stamp Chat. Please like and subscribe to the APS YouTube channel and keep the conversation going in the comment box below. And until next time, connect, collect, and find us on social media at Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And of course, visit our website, stamps.org, the APS social since 1886. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Happy Women's History Month to you, Charlene. And thanks so much for being on Stamp Chat.